A typhoon tycoon whose feelings were strewn and struck out, struck down, and washed up in this town. It's Fundercast 944. Hey there, Tony here, and yeah, I threw a little curveball there, didn't I? If you've been paying attention to the podcast here for some time, you always hear me say, it's Rhyme and Reason 944. But this time I said, it's Fundercast 944. That would be F as in Frank, Fundercast, from Tony Funderburk. Yeah, repositioning things here. It's no longer the Rhyme and Reason podcast with Tony Funderburk. Now it's Tony Funderburk, the voice of Rhyme and Reason. So, a lot of the same kind of thing, but a different emphasis. And I hope you like it. I hope you find that it's going to go in a direction that is going to make more sense, at least as it continues and winds up and plays out. And speaking of playing out, I'm going to play a couple of tales here. I'm going to share a couple of tales with you. The first one is the Typhoon Tycoon. And you hear that and you think, Typhoon Tycoon? Self, that's obviously the most important thing I've got to listen to today, so let's listen up, right? That's what you're saying. That's what you're thinking to yourself, right? I knew it, because who wouldn't want to know more about Typhoon Tycoon, right? But now that you're listening, I got to tell you, it was a ruse, it was a ploy, it was just a diversion to make you look at my left hand while my right hand performed the magic. Na 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 na. And that's the key today, to get you to look somewhere else and change up your routine to add more love and care in your life for yourself and for your neighbor. Here's my recommendation. Here's the flash of light for today, okay? As you go through your day today, as you check your texts, your instant messages, your social media accounts, YouTube and Instagram videos, and even your e-commerce stats, take a pause. Look up, look around, pay attention to the ones you love, and talk to them. Embrace, laugh, enjoy the time. They won't be here forever, and you won't either. But you'll all be somewhere forever, so talk about that. And be sure where you're going, okay? Because there's a bad place to go and there's an awesome place to go. And it matters more than any other message you're going to receive from any other source, any other topic you're ever going to talk about. It matters more than all of those. It matters more than any of the political issues. They are temporary. It matters more than any financial issues that you are dealing with or not dealing with, because those are temporary. Are you good to go? Good. Now, let me calm down just a little bit here. And then I'm going to tell you the tale of the Typhoon Tycoon. Lorenzo Lanoon, the tycoon, stored his gold inside a typhoon. Though most thought he must be a loon, he trusted his mullah Monsoon. Each day he'd compose a new tune. At night on his contrabassoon, he'd play by the light of the moon, and birds from Kowloon to Rangoon flocked to trees to listen and croon. And every third week the tycoon put more gold inside his typhoon, and it turned into a balloon that looked like a golden doubloon. Then one day, exactly at noon, in the month there'd be a blue moon, he sailed away from his lagoon on the wild winds of his typhoon, like the famous fork and the spoon. See, Lorenzo was not immune to the words in a local tune where they called him a picaroon. It's not likely he'll return soon. The lyrics were like a harpoon intended to lightly lampoon, so Lorenzo left a festoon on the statue of John Calhoun, and he turned into a cartoon. And that, my friends, is the tale of the Typhoon Tycoon Lorenzo Lanoon. Now I'm going to share another tale, and it's going to be connected to something that might be familiar to you. You've heard of there not being any joy in Mudville when Mighty Casey struck out. Have you heard that? Well, I assume you've heard that, or you read it. And I know what happens when you assume. You make I know what happens, okay? So maybe I should have given a spoiler alert, but the poem first appeared back in 1888. So for crying out loud, if you haven't read it or heard it by now, then, shame on you. It's on you. Anyway, Mighty Casey struck out, But that's nothing, I tell you, compared to Wyler's woes. I know you've never heard of Wyler James. I know that. And I'll explain how I know that in just a bit, but just know for now that when it comes to someone who knows what it feels like to be struck out, you don't have to look any further than Wyler. That's W-Y-L-E-R, Wyler. He started out on what looked like a fast track to stardom, because his first 3 songs that he wrote were covered by some Nashville names big enough to make him a fair sum of money, as it made them a lot more money. So, that was mighty cool. And Wyler, well, he gained a considerable amount of recognition from his appearances in the Nashville venues that featured songwriters in what they call in the round. People just plain liked him. And they liked those first 3 hits, a trio of soulful love songs. They liked those a lot. But one gray day, Wyler hit 2 metaphorical but solid stone walls that stalled out his career. First, the music industry moved into a time where his style of soulful love songs just were not what the public wants to hear, according to publishers and promoters and radio execs. What do they know? So, that was a pretty big slap, because Wyler wasn't what you would call a viral hits or dance tracks kind of songwriter that they said they needed. But the other stone wall was where he really got the rug pulled out from under him. And that stone wall was Wyler's worldview. Yeah, it's safe to say he didn't toe the creative community's party line, because Wyler not only considered himself a Christian and a conservative, he actually dared to voice his opinion a lot. Can you imagine? Yeah, you probably can, right? So, former so-called friends, I'll put air quotes around that. Can you see those? There they are, right there. So-called friends faded into the background, or should I say into the woodwork, and publishers and other songwriters, well, they treated him as persona non grata. That's Italian for persona non grata. And I can tell you from experience, a persona with non grata has a much harder time paying the bills. Oh yeah, believe me, I know. So Wyler's desk, it filled up with past due bills, and he headed toward total bankruptcy, because the memories of those days of radio hits and sold-out shows and awards, well, those motivated him to stick with his true love, music. And in a world that increasingly doesn't appreciate the Christian worldview, Wyler seemed to face impossible odds. But he wasn't the kind of guy who bet the odds. And night after night, he'd go get his guitar and strum and hum and look for that song. That song. What, where could it be? That song. The one his heart wanted to sing to and for everyone who faced seemingly impossible odds because they dared to speak their Christian faith. That was the song he was looking for. That was the song he wanted to do. That was the one he wanted to write. Finally, one night, he found some chords and strums that fit just right with the 4 lines of lyrics that kept popping into his brain. And he wrote, "You say you're feeling empty, and it doesn't go away, and you live for your tomorrow and suffer in today. You need to blow your trumpet to tear down all the walls and keep your heart wide open to hear God when he calls." Suddenly, Wyler felt revived, and it was as if his soul filled up with renewed hope and love and determination, and he set up his computer studio, positioned his mic, and recorded the whole song in only a couple of takes. And then he listened to the finished song probably 10 times or more, and every time he heard it, he liked it more. Then he got this crazy idea that he just skipped that whole Nashville publishing promoting scene. He just put his song directly in front of the fans that he still had on his social media pages. Well, as it turned out, there were still plenty of fans and followers who loved his music, and many of them shared his new song. And before he would have even dared dream that it could happen, the song became one of those viral hits. Yeah, and that's in spite of it not being a dance track. Go figure. All right, I won't bore you with the rest of the details of what happened after that, because here's the part of the story where I share with you how I know you never heard of Wyler James. You never heard of him because he didn't exist before I made him up. Yeah, but the lines to his song, those existed. And I know they did because I wrote them way back in the 90s, back in the 20th century. Ooh, way back there. And the song is called Impossible Odds. And it was included on my Do Right CD. Yeah, CD. But you don't have to buy the CD. I still have a few copies of it left if you really and truly wanted to buy one. But you don't have to get the CD. You don't have to even wait for that. You can get a digital download of the Do Right Songbook Journal right there at the Rhyme and Reason Bookshop and TonyFunderburk.com. And we just added it to the digital bookshelves recently. And in the book, you'll get the lyrics to all the songs, lots of pages to journal or doodle on, and somewhere in there is a link to download all the songs and download them to your favorite device. And that's included at $0 dinero. And that's Spanish for $0 dinero. So don't be struck out watching this offer pass you by. Go get your copy of the Do Right Songbook Journal over at the Rhyme and Reason Bookshop, or just look for Bookshop on TonyFunderburk.com. And if you don't know me well enough to spend money on the book, then at least jump on the Funder Flash newsletter and get to know me better. And just so you know, Weiler's worldview, that's mine too. Join the growing body of believers who enjoy my daily flashes of light about the rhyme and reason and power of God's love.